My dad texted at 3 a.m. Drama, don't trust mom. 9 minutes later, a stranger said, run now. We were fleeing through the night, and he froze. Imagine receiving a text message at 3 a.m. from your own father, one that rips apart everything you thought you knew about your family, telling you to run, and above all, not to trust your mother. The blue light from my phone screen was a harsh, burning glare in the suffocating darkness of my room. 3 cryptic sentences flashed, each word a chilling echo that shattered the silent night. My dad, Robert, was on one of his monthly business trips to Seattle, always professional, always predictable. He never texted past 10 p.m., never used urgent language, never gave us a reason to worry. But this message, this was unlike anything I'd ever seen from him. It screamed terror packed into just 14 words. I was 18, old enough to tell the difference between drama and genuine, gut-wrenching fear. This wasn't drama. This was actual, pure horror. I ripped my covers off, my heart hammering against my ribs. My hands shook as I pulled on whatever clothes I could find, jeans, a sweater. My brain was screaming, trying to make sense of don't trust your mother. Christine. My mom, she was downstairs, probably still in the living room, exactly where I'd left her an hour ago, just watching some true crime documentary, sipping wine, like any other normal suburban mom on a Tuesday night. Nothing about that picture hinted at menace. Nothing strange at all. But Robert, my dad, he wouldn't send this without a reason. And the part about snatching your sister and fleeing, that wasn't some delusion. That was imminent, terrifying danger. I jammed my feet into sneakers, then grabbed my backpack, textbooks. Gone. In went my laptop, phone charger, and the emergency cash I'd stashed away in my desk for God knows what reason. $350. At that moment, it felt like my entire net worth. My 14-year-old sister, Lily, was still fast asleep in the next room, completely oblivious to the silent panic attack I was having. I tiptoed down the hall, every step feeling impossibly loud, and eased open Lily's door. The hinges let out a tiny, agonizing squeak. My sister was a peaceful lump under her covers, only her dark hair peeking out, breathing in the deep rhythm of undisturbed sleep. Waking her quietly felt impossible. Waking her loudly, that would alert Christine downstairs. And Robert's message was chillingly clear, don't trust her. I knelt by Lily's bed, gently placing my hand over her mouth and shook her shoulder. Her eyes snapped open, wide with immediate horror. I felt her struggle, a muffled attempt to scream under my palm. I put a finger to my own lips, then whispered into her ear, so low it was almost inaudible, even in the silent room. Robert sent an emergency message. We have to go. Now. Before Mom knows. I'll explain everything once we're safe, but you have to believe me. You have to be completely silent. Lily's eyes were pools of dread and confusion, but she nodded against my hand. I pulled my hand away, and she sat up, fumbling for her glasses on the nightstand. I'd already grabbed clothes from her closet, pants, a hoodie, shoving them into her hands, frantically gesturing for her to change. Her hands trembled as she pulled them on over her pajamas. I practically kicked her feet into the nearest shoes, not even bothering with the laces. Lily's window faced the backyard, a road I knew intimately from countless teenage sneak-outs. I popped the screen loose with practiced ease, glancing down at the 10-foot drop. Not ideal, but the flower bed below would be softer than pavement. I tossed both our backpacks out first. They landed with soft thuds in the mulch. Then, I helped Lily climb through the window frame. She hesitated, peering nervously at the dark abyss. No time for that. I grabbed her wrists, lowered her as far as I could, then let go. She dropped the last 4 feet with a muffled thump that echoed like a cannon shot in the silent night. I was right behind her, diving out, rolling to absorb the impact. My ankle twisted, a sharp pain, but it held my weight. Lily stared at me, a million unspoken questions in her eyes. I just gripped her hand and pulled her towards the back fence. We had minutes, maybe seconds, before Christine might check on us or hear something. The fence was a 7-foot tall privacy wall. I scaled it by stepping on a crossbeam, hauling myself over, and dropping into our neighbor's yard. Lily struggled, smaller and less agile, but I helped her, catching her as she stumbled beside me. We tore through 3 backyards low to the ground, until we finally burst onto a street 3 blocks from our house, both of us panting, chests heaving. Only then, shivering in the cool night air, did I pull out my phone. I reread Robert's message, desperately searching for anything I'd missed in my panic. Timestamp 3:05 a.m., sent 9 minutes ago. No follow-up texts, no missed calls. Just those 3 phrases, hanging in the digital space like a detonated bomb. I tried calling him. Straight to voicemail. His perfectly professional outgoing message felt jarring, totally at odds with the emergency he'd just declared. Lily was tugging at my sleeve, her voice edged with rising panic. She needed answers I didn't have. I showed her the text. Her face went ashen in the dim glow of the streetlights. What does he mean? Don't trust Mom. What's happening? She whispered, tears welling. I don't know yet. I lied, trying to sound calm, trying to sound in charge, though my own mind was a frantic mess. But Robert wouldn't say this if it wasn't serious. We just need to get somewhere safe. Okay, then we figure it out. My only plan was to run. And now here we were, standing on a deserted street at 3 a.m., nowhere to go, no way to reach the one parent who had told us to leave. Then my phone vibrated again. A new text from Christine. Where are you girls? I heard noises upstairs. Her tone was so casual, too casual. Like she was trying to pretend everything was normal, even as our world had just imploded. Was she genuinely perplexed? Was Robert's warning some terrible mistake, and she was just a worried mom? But those 14 words kept echoing. The precision, the urgency, and Robert's phone was still off. Before I could even process it, another text from Christine. This isn't funny. Come downstairs right now or I'll call the cops. The threat was weird. What would she even tell the police? That her teenage daughters left the house in the middle of the night. We weren't missing, we weren't abducted. We left because Robert told us to. Unless Christine had a reason to involve the police. A reason to get us back under her control. Lily was silently weeping beside me, the quiet, fearful sobs of a 14-year-old whose entire world had just been ripped apart at 3 a.m. I wrapped my arm around her shaking shoulders and kept walking, pushing us towards the distant glow of a 24-hour convenience store. Lights, people witnesses, some semblance of safety while I tried to figure out what the hell to do next. Christine's texts kept coming, a barrage of increasingly agitated messages, perplexed, then angry, then outright threatening. The convenience store was a ghost town, just a bored cashier glued to his phone behind bulletproof glass. Lily and I huddled in the back, pretending to browse the chilled drinks, trying desperately to look casual despite being two terrified teenagers at 3 a.m. I called Robert again. Voicemail. Still off. I tried texting him instead, a frantic plea for more information, letting him know we were out, but begging to know what was happening. My phone immediately rang. Christine's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 3 times, my heart pounding before answering, putting it on speaker for Lily. Christine's voice was tight, barely controlled. Where are you? What's going on? I wake up and both my daughters are gone. Windows open. You're not answering texts. You're scaring me, honey. She sounded genuinely scared, bewildered. Nothing in her tone hinted at danger. No menace at all. But Robert's message, the raw urgency of it, the specificity that had propelled us out of that house roared in my head. Robert texted us, I said carefully, watching Lily's face for her reaction. Said to leave the house. And not to trust you. We need to know why he said that. The silence on the other end stretched. So long I thought the call had dropped. Then, Christine laughed, a brittle, unsettling sound that made every hair on my neck stand on end. Your father texted you at 3 in the morning, telling you to run away from me. That's insane. He's in Seattle at some conference, probably drunk at a hotel bar. He doesn't know what he's saying. But drunk? My dad. I'd barely ever seen him even sip a drink at a party, let alone be drunk. And that message, it hadn't read drunk. It had read terrified. Why would he specifically say not to trust you? I pressed, my voice shaking. What is he afraid you'll do? Christine's breathing hitched, quickening over the phone. When she spoke again, her voice had hardened, shedding all pretense of concern. Listen to me very carefully. Your father is having some kind of mental break. He's been acting paranoid for weeks, saying strange things, accusing me of things that aren't true. I didn't want to worry you girls, but he's been seeing a therapist for delusions. Whatever he told you is part of that. You need to come home right now so we can handle this as a family. Her explanation sounded plausible. Almost plausible, except for the timing. If Robert had been deluded for weeks, why now? Why send that urgent text, then immediately turn off his phone if he was just drunk or confused? And why did Christine's voice still feel off? Like she was acting concerned, not genuinely feeling it. Lily's face mirrored my own gnawing hesitation. I want to talk to Robert first, I said, my voice firmer than I felt. I want to hear from him that he's fine, that this was all a mistake. Then we'll come home. Christine let out a frustrated sound. I heard footsteps, the jingle of car keys on her end. Fine. Stay where you are and I'll come get you. We'll call Robert together from the car and sort this out. Where exactly are you? Every single instinct in my body screamed, don't tell her. Do not tell her where we are. We're at a friend's house. I improvised. We'll come home once we've spoken with Robert. I hung up before she could respond, then immediately powered off my phone. The thought of location tracking, of her finding us, was a cold wave over me. Lily, without a word, did the same. We were operating on the same terrifying wavelength of mistrust. The convenience store clerk was now watching us with blatant suspicion, probably wondering if he should call the police on two freaked-out teenagers at 3 a.m. I grabbed 2 bottles of water, paid cash, trying to look normal, unhurried. We had to go. But where? Robert's message just said run, no destination, no safe place, no contact info beyond the initial, cryptic warning. As we stepped out, Lily gasped, grabbing my arm, pointing back down the street. A car was moving slowly, headlights off, cruising like it was hunting. Even from 3 blocks away, I recognized it. Christine's silver SUV, the one she used for her real estate business, for soccer practice. She was looking for us. And somehow she had known or guessed or tracked us to this exact spot. We dove behind a parked car, holding our breath, watching the SUV crawl past. Through the driver's window, I saw Christine's profile, illuminated by her phone screen, and the look on her face, it wasn't the face of a frightened mother. It was cold, calculating. She rounded the corner, and we took off in the opposite direction, scurrying low behind parked cars until we reached a major intersection. A bus stop shelter offered a moment of temporary cover. I tried to think. To rationally think. Robert was unreachable. Christine was actively hunting us. And we couldn't go to friends. Their parents would call Christine the second we walked in. We needed an adult, someone who would listen to this insane story before judging us, someone with authority but no existing loyalty to Christine. I risked turning my phone back on. Instantly, it buzzed, then vibrated incessantly with a flood of texts. Most were from Christine, her tone growing increasingly frantic. But then, one from an unknown number. This is Special Agent Jessica Miller from the FBI. Your father requested me to notify you if anything happened to him. Call this number immediately from a secure line. Do not go home. Do not trust local police. I read it once. Then again. Then a third time. My brain simply couldn't process it. The FBI. This wasn't about family drama or marital problems anymore. This was about crimes. Serious crimes. Lily, reading over my shoulder, went even paler. Why would Robert be talking to the FBI? What did Mom do? She whispered, voicing the exact questions tearing through my own mind. My hands were shaking as I found the convenience store's payphone. I was terrified of any phone monitoring. I dialed the number in the text. A woman answered on the second ring, her voice calm, professional, even at this insane hour. Agent Miller. Who am I speaking with? This is Chloe Brennan. You sent a message about my father, Robert Brennan. He texted us tonight, told us to leave our house, not to trust our mother. We need to know what's happening. Agent Miller was silent for a beat, and I heard the faint click of her keyboard in the background, like she was pulling up a file. Then she spoke. Your father has been cooperating with a federal investigation into financial crimes for the past 4 months. He uncovered evidence that your mother is involved in a sophisticated fraud scheme, moving money through her real estate business. We've been building a case, but tonight, our surveillance team lost contact with your father. His last communication was sending you that text message. Then his phone went offline. Her words hit me like physical blows. I clutched the payphone receiver, knuckles white, trying to keep myself from collapsing. Christine wasn't just having marital issues. She wasn't just acting strange. She was a felon. Under federal investigation. Robert had been secretly working with the FBI, gathering evidence against his own wife, and tonight, something had gone horribly wrong. Where is he now? I choked out. Is he safe? Agent Miller hesitated. We don't know. He was supposed to check in 4 hours ago from his hotel in Seattle, and he didn't. His phone last pinged at the hotel, then went offline. We have agents checking the hotel now, but his failure to communicate, combined with that text to you, suggests he believed himself to be in immediate danger. Lily was gripping my sleeve so hard her fingers dug into my skin, listening, her eyes wide with increasing terror. What kind of danger? Why would Mom hurt him? But even as she asked, memories flooded my mind, things that had seemed normal, innocent, but now took on a sinister, deadly significance. Christine's frequent, unexplained absences. Her sudden defensiveness when Robert asked about her company's finances. The way she'd suddenly password protected everything on her phone and computer. Agent Miller's voice, now colder, cut through my thoughts. The people your mother is working with are not the type to leave witnesses if their operation is jeopardized. If they discovered your father was cooperating, he would become a liability, to be eliminated. And if they've gotten to him, you and your sister are potential witnesses. You know his habits, you could identify accomplices. That's why his message told you to run. The full, crushing weight of our danger settled over me. This wasn't just family turmoil. This wasn't a divorce. We were fleeing from people who murdered witnesses to financial crimes. What do we do? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Where do we go? Agent Miller gave me an address, an FBI field office about 50 miles north. Get there as soon as possible. No credit cards, no phones except for emergency calls. If you see your mother or anyone suspicious, call 911 immediately. I've dispatched operatives to pick you up, but they'll take about 50 minutes. You need to stay hidden and keep moving until they arrive. I hung up and turned to Lily, forcing myself to tell her everything. Her face cycled through incredulity, terror, and finally, grim, heartbreaking acceptance. 14 years old, absorbing that our mother was a criminal. Our father was gone, maybe dead, and we were running from murderers. It was too much for anyone, let alone a child who, hours earlier, had been stressing about homework and friend drama. A taxi firm operated from the strip mall across the street. We moved quickly, scanning constantly for Christine's silver SUV. The dispatcher sounded half asleep, but agreed to send a car. I gave her an address 3 blocks away from the FBI office. Even innocent cab companies felt like a risk now. The cab arrived 20 minutes later, a beat-up sedan driven by a man who looked thoroughly annoyed at being roused. Lily and I scrambled into the back seat. I handed him cash up front, telling him to drive carefully and avoid main roads. He gave me a strange look, pocketed the money, and pulled out of the lot. We'd been driving for maybe 4 miles when I noticed headlights gaining on us fast. The cab driver glanced in his mirror, cursed under his breath, and sped up a bit. Probably drunk idiots playing games, he muttered. But I spun around, and my blood ran cold. It was Christine's SUV, close enough for me to see her face through the window, grim, determined. "That's our mother," I yelled at the driver, my voice cracking. "She's dangerous. We need to lose her now." He stared at me like I was insane. Until Christine's SUV slammed into our rear bumper, sending Lily and me flying forward against the front seats. The driver swore again, flooring it. Christine hit us again, and the old cab responded sluggishly. We were on some desolate, semi-rural road. Barely any traffic. The absolute worst place for a high-speed chase. Christine pulled alongside us now, her face a twisted mask I barely recognized, pure, cold fury. She was trying to force us off the road. Her SUV was a tank compared to our beat-up cab. She smashed into our passenger side again and again, the impact rattling our bones, sending the driver into panic, swerving wildly to keep control. Lily was screaming. I was on the phone dialing 911, yelling our location and our desperate situation to a dispatcher who kept telling me to calm down and repeat that. Christine delivered one final, brutal smash. The cab spun out, a dizzying blur, then careened off the road into a shallow ditch. Even with seatbelts, we were thrown violently. My head cracked against the windshield, stars exploding behind my eyes. Christine's SUV screeched to a halt. I saw her jump out, stalking purposefully towards our wrecked cab. The cab driver was slumped over the wheel, stunned or unconscious. Lily was weeping, terrified, beside me. I grabbed her hand, kicked open the passenger door on the other side, and hauled her out into the drainage ditch that ran alongside the road. We plunged into the thicket and darkness, Christine's shouts echoing behind us. Her voice carried clearly in the silent night. "Girls, stop! I'm trying to protect you! The FBI is lying! Your father is lying! I just need to talk to you!" But her actions screamed a different story. These weren't the actions of someone trying to protect us. These were the actions of someone trying to hurt us. The ditch led to a culvert beneath the road. We crawled through, emerging on the other side muddy and scratched. Behind us, sirens wailed, growing louder. My 911 call had finally paid off. Christine must have heard them too. Her furious shouting abruptly stopped. I heard her SUV engine roar to life, tires squealing as she sped away from the scene. Police cruisers arrived in a flurry of flashing lights. Officers jumped out, assessing the crashed cab, searching the immediate area. We emerged from the dark tunnel, hands raised, yelling that we had called 911, that we were the victims. One officer approached, hand on his pistol, cautious, while his partner checked on the cab driver, who was slowly groaning back to consciousness. I blurted out everything, fast, while Lily sobbed against my shoulder. The officer was clearly skeptical until I blurted out FBI Special Agent Jessica Miller and showed him Robert's text. His entire demeanor shifted. He radioed something coded to his dispatcher, then told us to wait in his patrol car while he confirmed. 25 agonizing minutes later, black SUVs arrived. Federal agents, displaying their badges, took us away from the local police. Agent Miller was a woman in her 40s, with piercing eyes and a look that said she'd seen far too much to be surprised by anything. She draped emergency blankets over both of us, then guided us into one of the SUVs. "Your father is alive," she said quickly, and a knot in my chest, one I hadn't even realized was there, finally loosened. "He was attacked in his hotel room tonight, but he fought off his assailant and fled. He's in protective custody, and he's looking for you both. Your mother's colleagues failed to kill him, so they turned their attention to you girls, most likely hoping to use you as leverage to keep your father from testifying. Lily was sobbing harder now, relief mixing with pure exhaustion and trauma. Where's Mom? Lily asked, her voice muffled. Did you arrest her? Agent Miller's voice was harsh. She fled the scene before local officers could apprehend her. We have warrants out for attempted murder, assault, fraud, and about a dozen other charges. Every law enforcement agency in the state is looking for her, but she's proven to be very good at disappearing when she wants to be. The drive to the FBI field office was a blur of exhaustion, shock, and mounting terror. They put us through security, took our statements individually, documenting every horrifying detail of the night and Christine's actions. Someone brought us food, coffee, and thick blankets, treating us like we were fragile glass, ready to shatter at the slightest touch. Robert arrived as morning broke, looking worse than I'd ever seen him. His face was bruised and cut, his left arm in a sling, and every movement seemed to cause him pain. But the moment he saw us in that sterile conference room, he burst into tears. He pulled us both into a fierce, protective embrace, Lily sobbing into his chest. I'm so sorry, he kept repeating, his voice raw. I'm so sorry I put you through this. I thought I could handle it quietly. I thought I could protect you. Over the next few hours, the full, sickening story unspooled. Christine had been running a massive real estate fraud scheme for 6 years, using her business as a front for money laundering for a criminal organization. Robert had found proof purely by accident. Text messages, emails. They showed she wasn't just involved, she was a key player. Instead of confronting her, he'd gone to the FBI. For 4 months, he'd been secretly gathering evidence, pretending everything was fine, living a lie. Tonight, a breach in the investigation meant Christine's associates found out about his cooperation. They sent people to his hotel to eliminate the witness. But Robert, ever the meticulous man, had extra locks. He fought them off, fled, but not before sending us that terrifying text. He knew. He knew if they came for him, they'd come for us next. She never intended to hurt you directly, Robert said, his voice firm, though his eyes were haunted. She just wanted to grab you before the FBI could use you as collateral to force me not to testify. But when you ran, when you didn't come home, she panicked. The woman who chased you tonight wasn't your mother protecting her kids. She was a criminal protecting her operation, by any means necessary. 9 months later, the trial happened. Christine was caught at the Canadian border, trying to escape with fake documents and a huge pile of cash. Robert and the FBI had built an overwhelming case, years of fraud, money laundering, millions of dollars. Christine was sentenced to 30 years for fraud, conspiracy, attempted murder, and a list of other charges that took the prosecution 12 minutes just to recite. She never once looked at us during the entire trial, never showed regret, never offered an explanation. The woman in that defendant's chair, she was a stranger. She had my mother's face, but she wasn't my mother, and it was in that courtroom watching her that I realized we had been living with a criminal our entire lives, completely oblivious. Robert testified for 2 days, his voice unwavering even through the visible emotional agony. He spoke of falling in love with someone who didn't truly exist, someone who had been playing a part all along. Lily and I now live with Robert in a new state, under partial witness protection. Not a full name change, but enough security that I can sleep most nights without nightmares of SUVs crashing into our car. We're both in therapy, trying to work through the raw betrayal, the suffering, learning how to trust again. Our core safety net, our family, had been shattered. Robert is slowly rebuilding his consulting firm and, more importantly, trying to forgive himself for not seeing the signs sooner, for unknowingly exposing us to a danger he couldn't have imagined. This story, it's still unfolding in our lives, every single day. The weight of knowing your own mother tried to harm you, that your father risked everything to save you, it changes you. It makes you question everything. I'm still processing this betrayal. If something like this happened to you, if your entire world turned upside down overnight, what would your first move be? How would you ever learn to trust again? Let me know in the comments below. I'm reading everything.